Hello, everybody. Um, Today, I would like to speak about the current inflation, which worries many people. I will address, of course, the topic astrologically. We'll explain you the reasons, astrological reasons behind the inflation, the whole financial situation, and when approximately this will end. Of course, I will use the ancient sidereal Babylonian astrology and the most ancient known to us rule of analyzing such mundane events. This is, just to explain you before I start sharing my screen with you, I will be very, very careful because this is very specific information. Careful meaning that I don't miss detail. So we'll be looking at these at two very important points in astrology called tropical points. And these are the horoscopes of the most important days of the year. And this is the 1st of Nisan. This is the beginning of the lunar year, actually. The way it was measured by the Sumerians, which is the culture 4,000 years BC. This was the approximately. This was the culture before the Babylonians, which came after that and changed the rule of looking at the this type of charts, mundane charts of the 1st of Nisan. So we're certainly following the most precious rule of Hermes, which is that the beginning of a cycle determines how the whole cycle will look like. This is why we're looking at the beginning of a cycle of the appearance of the first lunar crescent after the sun, before the sun enters the point of the spring equinox, or for Australia, this will be the autumn equinox. This will show us how the whole year will look like. And of course, I will go back to the beginning, to February, end February, beginning of March of 2022. And then, of course, in order to see the future developments, we will look at the very same chart for the year of 2023. Now, just two, 3 words to tell you, probably, maybe you know it, and I've been also mentioning this on my channel. Now, this particular day, the 1st of Nisan, this was the most important, the holy day, the most celebrated day for the ancients. I think not only for the Sumerians and Babylonians, but also for other cultures. I think also for the Vedic culture, Chinese, many cultures. But this first day in Babylon and in Sumer was called the Akitu. The Akitu festival celebrated approximately 12 days, with given special attention to certain planetary divinity, depending who was the patron of the city. But it was a very, very holy, special day, full of rituals, all rituals, meaning to enhance the connection of people with the nature and the sky. Amazing festival. I think I have several videos on this topic. I may record another one because I found new interesting details around the Akitu. And also, if you read the Epic of Gilgamesh, you will see how he mentions that he will go back to Babylon around Akitu, and this happens. They would celebrate 2 times Akitu. I think more important was the Akitu of the 1st Nisan, the beginning of the year. Like I mentioned, for the Sumerians, this was the first lunar crescent before the sun enters the point of the vernal equinox. And also they had the 2nd Akitu in the month of Tishrit. The same rule applies, but 6 months later, to show them how the next 6 months will look like. So the astronomers, astrologers would certainly look at the sky. Yes, it's a technical interruption. I don't know what, excuse me. So astrologers, astronomers will look at the, would analyze the sky on this very day to see how the year will look like. I do this as well every year. And now I will draw your attention back to this day, which was end of February of 2022, and then we look at the same day of 2023. In a moment, I'm sharing my screen with you. Just to tell you another thing, we'll also be looking at something very, very important, and these are the eclipses of 2020. Well, we'll look at these eclipses now, because if we start analyzing all previous eclipses for the last 2 years, it will certainly take very long. But I will remind, because I have such videos that I have been emphasizing each time, that the eclipses of the year 2020, of the year 2021, even one eclipse happening now, 15th of May of 2022, they all happened on the axis of Taurus Scorpio, and this is the axis of money. Heavily eclipsed axis of money is leading to nothing else but financial crisis. Go back and see my videos. I've been saying this every time. Now in detail, we will see how this develops. Another thing that we certainly need to look at, of course, is Saturn. Saturn is the main, Saturn is the main author, not solely, of course, but the main author of the changes happening to us right now, to the world, to each one of us. You know, we are not the same. None of us is the same. Some of us grew up enormously in terms of knowledge and experience after Saturn entered sidereal Capricorn, which happened end of January of 2020, and you know that he will leave sidereal Capricorn end of January of 2023. So Saturn is very important. We will look at his movements. Of course, there will be much more to look at, but these are the main steps that we will follow, just to explain you how how things develop. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and let's start looking at the most important, horoscope. And this is the horoscope of the 1st of Nisan. I'm trying to share my screen with you. All right, I think I managed. Okay, now let's take a look at, I got the right chart here. I will enlarge it. Hopefully it's quite visible for all of you. So look, here we have the horoscope of 1st of Nisan, which happened in beginning of March. Sometimes happens end of February, doesn't matter, of 2022. First, what we have classically, of course, traditionally, by the book, the moon appears in Pisces and the sun is in Aquarius, because in Pisces, according to the Babylonian, the way we follow up, of course, the movements of the equinoxes and the solstices, the vernal equinox, the spring equinox, now is in the 1st degrees of Pisces. So the moon classically appears in Pisces. I can tell you in some areas of the world, the moon is in the very last degrees of Aquarius, which shows stuck, lack of development and so. But let's look at this very classical situation. I've been showing you this chart also previously, because look what is happening actually here. And I remember that when I was showing this chart, I expressed my worries a bit, because you see, Venus is in Capricorn, Mars is in Capricorn, we've got invisible Saturn, Mercury invisible, we've got invisible Jupiter in Aquarius, and all these are the planets that Jupiter and Venus, that are the planets that we hope to receive help in order to have good financial results or to have abundance. But both planets, Jupiter invisible in the moment of the new year, of the month of the first day of the month of Nisan, is an omen. It shows lack of abundance. Jupiter is not there. Then we have, I can tell you one note I want to make. Many astrologers like to explain the inflation with the phases, with the transits of Jupiter, and but I disagree, because he's the planet of abundance. Yes, there is this cliche how he enlarges, pumps up things, but not necessarily. He's the most benevolent planet, and he's very much related to abundance, and he's invisible. You have Venus heavily limited in Capricorn. If this is not showing you financial trouble, what will be? And Venus with Mars, volatilities of the markets. Mars heavily, seriously exalted. Even Mercury is in the exaltation degree of Mars to emphasize on the markets and the influences of Mars, and it shows financial crisis. It shows volatilities. Let's look further. I think this is 2023. I want to show you the chart of Tishrit, month of Tishrit, which is supposed to happen on the very end of August of 2022. This is month of Tishrit. This is another Akitu, another important day, maybe a bit less important than the first Akitu festival of the year, but this is another Akitu festival, holy day, showing us a lot. And what is happening here is that we have opposition. Of course, one thing is that the moon is in the 27 degrees of Leo. Actually, this is classically moon which has no course, which means that this next 6 months will not give us drastic solutions. And on the other hand, you see here exact opposition between Venus and Saturn. And who is more powerful? Saturn, because Venus is in Cancer, peregrine. Peregrine meaning that in Cancer, Venus can give us a lot of spiritual activities, philosophies. She can give us, and she's a morning star. She's about wisdom. She's not given a huge abundance when in Pisces, and when in Cancer, excuse me. In Pisces, certainly she's abundant, but she receives affliction from Saturn. This is really afflicted of again financial troubles of the markets. By the way, I will give you a good thing that Jupiter, from his most powerful position in Pisces, is aspecting Venus by trine. So to not be that certainly not that bad, but affliction, which would say that people will be generating more costs than receiving incomes. And when you arrange this, like having the nature of zodiac, of the world, when you put Aries to be, Aries to be the first house, then this is happening on the 10th, fourth houses, which for the world is exactly governments. Because Saturn is in the 10th, this is rulership, governments intentionally creating situations, intentionally suppressing the financial markets. This is exactly the hand of the governments. But, and then Jupiter, you see, he will remain here in the 12th house. This is this hand of what? Of, this, of course, there is a spiritual solution. It is our empathy, the human heart. We will not be left alone in this crisis without having, it will not be that devastating. They want to make it devastating. They want it to look disastrous for us by, see, it is controlled financial disaster, absolutely controlled. And because Venus is also ruling the, the food supplies, she naturally certainly rules the second house. They will also try to create situations when there will be further lack of food supplies, but it won't be that bad because Jupiter creates the trine. But we will feel stuck because the moon has no course. See, this is the situation. And in the meantime, before we look at the Akitu of 2023, I will show you something else. And yeah, I want to look at this now, the new eclipses. Let's not look at the past eclipses because it will be really hours of work. And I have separate videos on which one of them you can take a look. But look, the one that is happening on the 25th of October, just to prove you that this is orchestrated inflation and which will not completely manage. It means I mean, mainly the look why. You have this is the situation of the first eclipse happening October 25th, and we've got you know, conjunction of certainly, you know, the sun and the moon, but you also have here Venus, and you have the square of Saturn, who always represents the government, and especially when you put this in the 10th house, this is the governmental hand, you know. And this is in Libra. You have this. The thing is that there is ominous saying in the ancient Babylon cuneiform texts that when benevolent planet like Venus or Jupiter is participating in the eclipse, the evil will be destroyed. So yes, there is certain dose of challenge. Saturn square in Venus again. The governmental hands, you know, trying to suppress the normal life supplies, you know, for the people. But then Venus is here. Yes, Venus is invisible. There will be certain, you know, luck that we will be noticing. But Jupiter again makes harmonious aspect, which to me is very benevolent. Because again, when a good planet is participating, the evil will be destroyed. So they will try to orchestrate and create situation with heavy inflation, with a problem with food supplies, and they will come with all types of stories. And to a degree, this will be the case because you see affliction of Venus from Saturn. You see, but Venus is still very heavy in Libra, heavily existing in her form of Ereshkigal, which is not that devastating. And then Jupiter makes harmonious aspect. And then Mercury is also in a very powerful exalted position and visible, meaning that there will be, people will find out, will be finding out, truth will come up, knowledge. People will still do their trade. You cannot destroy and kill this desire of the human, you know, to follow his you know, dreams and aims and goals. People will do their, you see, trine between Mercury and Saturn in almost exact trine. People will do their trade, do their attempts. They will not manage to destroy the economy. They will try. This will be temporary. Look at the next eclipse. 8th of November, we've got eclipse happening on the same axis. Of course, Venus keeps being invisible. And yes, it is pretty much similar situation, but the moon has, at least, is not void, of course. So here we start getting some hope. And before continuing, just to tell you important details around, you know, what is happening. We have to look at the retrograde motion of Saturn. I wrote for myself the timings, very important situation. Now we have we know Saturn is retro from 4th of June until October of 22 October, I think 25th October, because of the stationary phase. So from 4th of June to 25th of October, Saturn is retro. All right, Saturn retrograde is not so dramatic, but when is he changing his you know, his on the degree when he's changing his movement is the first degree of Aquarius, because now currently Saturn is in Aquarius, and on the 20 wait a second, when I've got on the, I've just forgot. Yeah, on the 20. Excuse me. On the 19th of June. Now, just he entered Capricorn, but he emphasized on the first degree of Aquarius, and I will tell you what this degree is. Very important degree in astrology. In the first degree of Aquarius, first to the third, you've got the river Eridanus. Research this river. It is. I even have a separate video on the river Eridanus. The river Eridanus is most probably the Nile of Egyptians, sacred river. Sacred degree in astrology, everything associated to the river Eridanos, it is abundance. Saturn is afflicting the abundance. With his movement, with his turning retro to direct to retro in the degrees of the river Eridanos. So he's emphasized, he's hitting the abundance for the people. But again, look at Saturn as the planet which is ruling the rulership. Then what is happening further, he is retrograde until the 24 degrees in Capricorn. And here, what do we have? 1 second. In the 24 degrees, I will tell you. By the way, he also, somewhere end of August, Saturn enters the exaltation point of Mars. So what you're noticing now, the whole story about metals becoming enormously scarce and expensive, it will be triggered after August and these eclipses. So these eclipses in November, October, the dates I listed, also the Saturn triggering the exaltation point of Mars, Saturn triggering the point of abundance, certainly will lead temporarily to increase of inflation. It's temporary, don't be worried. But also it's good to know this is artificially created. And it will also be so that when Saturn triggers the exaltation point of Mars, he kind of restricts all which Marx is powerful with, which is what? This will be some restrictions on the war, but it will not end until the spring of 2023. But I explained this in a separate report. But he triggers what Mars is: iron, metals, raw materials. This is Mars. So this you have to keep into consideration. So when he goes to the 24 degrees of Capricorn, degrees when he is turning a retrograde, let me see actually what Saturn is triggering. In the 24 degrees of Capricorn, we have something very interesting. We've got the constellation, it's a snake without head. It's the Lyra, but and a bit further on, actually, yes, it's Lyra. And these degrees are about unhappy events, but for who? They lead to confusion. They are about receiving justice on people who are very high positioned in the society, judges, rulers. So we will see a lot of, justice in relation to those who are creating the scam around all these, world events. Even further on, the degree 28, 29, the exaltation degree of Mars are degrees where you have the tail of the goldfish, and there you have degrees which show the lie. We'll see a lot. These degrees are certainly not benevolent. This is also section of Capricorn ruled by term of Mars, ruled by Mars. So a lot of martial things will come in. There will be ugly truth coming out. And now is the time to share my screen again and show you the last, something is, I lost my image, excuse me. So look at the last chart of the Akitu, but this time of 2023. Yes, better picture, hopeful, much more. First of all, let me remind you, end of January of 2023, Saturn enters Aquarius. This will totally change the picture of the finances, of the economy. Everything will look differently. And in February 21st, where we have the first lunar crescent appearing after the Sun enters Aquarius, we have much more positive for us, the people picture. And this is, yes, I'm recording. And this is the fact that Venus is exalted and conjoined Jupiter, sextiling Mercury. And indeed, for some areas of the world, the moon will appear in the last degrees of Aquarius, which is not very good because it shows slow development, slow finding solutions. But still, we already have Jupiter and Venus together in Pisces on the day of the first lunar crescent. And remember, from the beginning, I told you how important this is. So we will start seeing way out from inflation, financial, situation. This will start slowly, and it already will start after end of January to 23, and the new lunar crescent, the new year, lunar year, I mean, after March, will look more positive. It will be totally different world. Saturn enters Aquarius. Go 30 years back and remember how many changes Saturn created for the world, totally. And then 3 years after, the situation was again different on another level. So it will be, I see much more positive picture, and this should give you more or less the timing when this financial, soup will be about to end, not entirely, because the moon is not very promising, showing struggling, but shows us a lot of hope, a lot of hope. Also, some of you can ask about the price of gold. I'm making a research on this, but there is such a specific solar cycle which is not ending yet, and it will end in a couple of years, and this may keep the price of the gold high for a few more years. But I will make a separate video on the gold because I'm researching this topic. It's very interesting from ancient astrological point of view. So I hope this information was useful for you. I hope I gave you hope. At least when we know the reason behind certain events, of course we will be hopeful because we know we are more in control of our reality, and we can be in control. So don't lose hope. Remember, in this horoscope, we see that the placement of Mercury is exalted, so powerful that people will not give up. They will not be destroyed. Their traits, their attempts, their desires to survive, no way. Yes, we'll go through certain obstacles, but we'll survive again, like we always did. So all the best, and see you soon.